Hi guys, it's Rebecca. So today I'm going to be doing a recent reads video. So I'm just going to be going through all of the books that I've read recently because I haven't uploaded on my channel in 2 years, I think, which is just insane. It definitely doesn't feel like 2 years. I don't even know what has happened in those 2 years. I will give like a brief overview as what happened. I left BookTube not because I didn't want to be making videos. I left because I just didn't have time to do it. I had just graduated my English Lit degree and I just had no idea what I was going to do. I ended up just working in some jobs, just bartending. That wasn't for me personally. I found that really difficult because it wasn't just like bartending until like 12, even 1 a.m. I was a cocktail bartender for a while, so I would be working until 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So I would be going to sleep at 8 a.m, getting up at like whatever. It was just like a lot, and I just found that I was just completely out of rhythm with BookTube. I had been doing like live sprints a lot. I couldn't do that anymore because I was working in the evenings. It was just too difficult to do it. I just couldn't do it. Quite a lot of time had passed. I then got a job last year, 2021. Yeah, in 2021, I think it was, I got then a job 9 to 5 in an office. Literally, it was just like, I need a job that actually has like normal working hours, and I had like intended to get back into BookTube. That job was like quite an intense job. I would always be like exhausted by the end of the day. I didn't have like any motivation to read because I was just like exhausted. All I could physically do was watch TV, go to bed, get up, go to that job, because I was just like so like emotionally drained every day. Anyway, some time passed. I did a year in that job because it was definitely like a worthwhile job and there was really good things about it. I made a lot of friends. There was good elements about it. It was like a good company and stuff like that. I then moved on and I am now in my current job. So I just started my job in November just passed, so November 22. I am so much happier. I feel like motivated in my job. My time in the evenings, I don't feel like it's just mentally draining time. Like I actually feel like motivated to do things that I just enjoy for me outside of my job. So that's really nice, and everybody I work with is amazing. So I feel like this is the best time to get back to BookTube because I can't even describe how much I miss making videos. I have also started a little book talk as well. I'm having so much fun making those. I'm currently also filming a reading vlog. That's making me so happy. I'm not like reading like an abundant amount, like I'm not reading like loads and loads per week, but it's just really nice just to have space again to talk about books. So I'm so excited to be back. I thought what better way to have my first video as to just show what I have been reading recently. I'm not going to go too far back. I'm just going to go for the last couple so that it's not like really long. These are not going to be any particular order. I've just put them all on a pile on the floor, and I've also gone through some audiobooks, not very many, but I'll talk about those as well. Anyway, I'm just going to get right into the video and start talking about the books that I have read recently. I also have a little cup of tea. I actually love this cup. I don't have any dogs. I've never had a dog in my life, but I've got this cup that says home is where the dog is because I think they were in like the Sainsbury's like on offer for like a couple of quid, and I was like, you know what, I actually love those, like they're so cute. And I think that at the time like I had like no mugs. Now I've got like way too many. I thought these like home is where the dog is things are really cute. Never had a dog and I'm not planning on getting a dog but I just thought they were cute anyway, so here I am with my dog mug that I don't have. The first book that I'll talk about, Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. I probably have definitely talked about it on my channel before. I absolutely love Sarah J Maas just because of the Throne of Glass series. I haven't actually read like Crescent City or anything like that, and I've only read ACOTAR and ACOMAF so far out of the ACOTAR series, but I am going to continue. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series. I did not really like ACOTAR. I think I gave it 3 stars, but because I love Sarah J Maas so much, and because I had heard people say just continue on, like ACOTAR is the worst book in the series, I thought, you know what, it's Sarah J Maas, I'm gonna give it like the opportunity and I'm gonna keep going, especially because like the end wasn't so bad. The end was like quite interesting. I'm pretty sure it is Beauty and the Beast retelling. Like I heard that like years and years ago, but I haven't actually ever googled it or like tried to actually find out if that's true. This is a fantasy series, like a fantasy romance. I'm sure everybody's heard about it. There's fae and stuff like that. This book I gave 4 stars. Like I did really enjoy it. I don't know what was missing, but there wasn't that love that I got for Throne of Glass in here, but still it's like a really good book. I would definitely recommend it. If you've read ACOTAR, I would recommend going on. This is such a good book. Like it's one of those books where you're sitting and you can't stop thinking about it. You're so excited that you just want to see what happens. You just want to read it. Although it's like quite a big book, it does feel like quite fast paced, probably because you just do have that feeling of that you want to keep reading. I really love this one, and I'm really happy that I continue continued with the series, and I'll definitely be going on to Court of Wings and Ruin. I just need to actually buy it. Another book that I read recently was The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. I got this Waterstones exclusive edition for Christmas. I read it basically as soon as I got it because I was so excited to read Maggie O'Farrell's new book. I also used to talk about Hamnet a lot on my channel. I absolutely love Hamnet with all of my heart. It blew me away. 5 stars. I love it. I love it. I love it. Definitely one of my all-time favorite books. Probably just because of my love of Shakespeare mainly, but it is a really, really good book. Like, the actual book blew me away. Maggie O'Farrell's like fairy tale-esque writing. That's the best way that I can describe it. Is amazing. This book is so interesting. Although I didn't love it as much as Hamnet, again, it's just like a lack of something. Like, that lack of enjoyment is usually what makes me give something 4 stars instead of 5. Like, even though it's like, to me, objectively a really, really good book, for me to give something 5 stars, it has to give me that love. I'm sure like everybody watching this who reads knows what I mean. Like, that feeling of just like, I love this book, I could just start again. This didn't give me that, although that I do feel like it's a really well written book. It's a really interesting book and it's really worth reading. I think everybody should read this book. I will describe what it is actually about, but first of all, I'll show how nice the Waterstones edition is. It's like really beautiful inside. It's like my favorite part. It has this like beautiful illustration of this lion, and then inside it has this snake of like gold foiling, and then it also has pretty much the same on the back. That is the picture. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love this edition. Whenever I first saw it, I was like, I need to have that. I'm not sure if Waterstones still have them. They probably still do. It also has the little like ribbon as well, so that you can use it as like a little bookmark. So I love that. To describe what this book is about, it's essentially about Lucrezia, who was the Duchess of Ferrara, I think in the 1590s. So it is based on a true story, and it's highlighting Lucrezia's life, imagining what may have happened, because we don't actually know that much about her. Maggie O'Farrell decided, since we don't know that much about her and she's kind of been erased from history, I want to rewrite her story. I'm just going to read out a little like snippet at the start, because I think this is what really intrigued me for this book, and I think that if you hear this, you're probably going to want to read it. So this is the historical note at the beginning. In 1560, 15-year-old Lucrezia di Cosimo de' Medici left Florence to begin her married life with Alfonso II d'Este, Duke of Ferrara. Less than a year later, she would be dead. The official cause of her death was given as putrid fever, but it was rumoured that she had been murdered by her husband. Maggie O'Farrell's little letter at the end about her experience writing the book is absolutely fantastic. I know I've talked about this one for ages, but I definitely do think it deserves it, and if you can, you should go and read The Marriage Portrait. I also hope I've been pronouncing all of the names right. I probably haven't. So this is the last book that I actually finished, and that is The Death of the Heart by Elizabeth Bowen. So I was actually meant to read this for my degree, but I think I got 60 pages in and then didn't finish it, even though like it is relatively a short book. It is a modern classic. Elizabeth Bowen is an Irish author. This one is about a young girl called Portia who is an orphan. It's basically a story about her moving in with her stepbrother and his wife, and her trying to fit into this new family dynamic, into these new relationships, but they don't really accept her or see her the way that she would like to be seen. It's a story about her falling in love and friendships. I mean, I really think I enjoyed the first half of this book. I kind of wish that it had taken a different direction. The characters are extremely well developed, I will say that, and I can't fault Elizabeth Bowen's writing, but it is a very boring second half of the book, and it's just like, it's not about much. Stuff happens, but it is just like people walking around basically. I always say that something's like a walkabout book whenever it's just people walking about, and like it is definitely character based. It's a character based novel, but it's just like definitely on the more disappointing side for me. It was just okay. I wouldn't say it was amazing or anything like that, but if it sounds like your kind of thing, then I would give it a go. I will say as well, like the writing is quite dense at times. Like she'll just kind of go off on these tangents, and I'm just kind of like, I've kind of lost what you're trying to say, and I love whenever that happens, but I don't like it whenever it gets to the point where it's just too much. It gets a bit pretentious and it just goes over the top, and I just kind of lose what they're trying to say, and I lose the point. Like, kind of, if you're gonna go off on these like tangents where you're trying to like teach me some kind of life lesson, keep it brief, because I'm not going to be able to pay attention. So the next book that I'm going to talk about, I finished recently as well. This has become one of my all-time favorite books. I gave it 5 stars. It definitely had that feeling of love, and I am literally so happy happy I read it. I finally read it because I'd wanted to read it for so long and I just had a feeling that I was going to love it. And that is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I absolutely love the Penguin English Library editions. They're my favourite editions. I love the font, I love the size of the font, I love the feel of the pages, and I love the covers, and they're relatively cheap. Anyway, this book is about Margaret Hale. It follows her as she moves to the north of England. It's basically a book about class in the north and south of England, the dynamics between people in the north and south of England when they meet. This book is a Victorian novel, so it is of course within the context of those times. I feel like that book as well really showed me a lot about how that has come through from history, especially during the Industrial Revolution and how people viewed that. But there is also a romance in this book, which I have to say, I do love a good romance, and it is so good because it doesn't overshadow everything else. Margaret as a character, she's so well developed, all of the characters are, but it's a lot about like her family relationships. She's so cute. She doesn't really like think about him a lot throughout the book. It's not as if like she's pining after him. It's interesting because it's actually the other way around. She's such a strong female character for a Victorian novel. I think she's absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved her. It's really not that hard to read. Out of a lot of the classics that I've read, that was one of the easiest to read. It was absolutely amazing. If you want to read a classic, maybe a Victorian classic by a woman, you should read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell because it is absolutely amazing. It's one of my favourites now, so I'm probably going to be trying to shove it down everybody's throats all the time now. So another book that I read recently was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. This is a huge book. Not gonna lie, I was reading this during the time where I didn't really have that much motivation to read, so it took me months to get through this. It definitely didn't need to take that long, but it took me that long because I was in like, not even a reading slump, I just couldn't bring myself to do much. This is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. I'd say this was my least favourite in the whole series, but maybe I would say Tower of Dawn. I don't know, because I actually did like Tower of Dawn in the end, even though that one did kind of feel like a bit boring at times. I did quite like how it ended up. I'd say the end of the series definitely does not go like downhill, but it's just not as like exciting, I guess, as the rest of the books. But still, I think I gave this 4 stars. It just like wasn't one of my favourites in the series, but I do absolutely love this series. It's definitely one of my favourite series of all time. It's amazing, and so far I definitely think that I prefer this series over ACOTAR, but I think I'm gonna have to read all of the ACOTAR books before I can make a full judgment. Another book that I read recently was All's Well by Mona Awad. I enjoyed this book. Like, I felt like I flew through it. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars because I just didn't feel like it was a 5-star again. I really enjoyed it just because of the reading experience. I thought it was well written, although strange and like kind of like not disturbing, but just like weird. Like, I will say it is a weird book, like very strange, but I understand that that is the point. I think it might be a Macbeth retelling. Like, I'm not really sure what it's trying to be a retelling of, but I've heard that it's a Shakespeare retelling, but I don't know. I didn't really get that out of it. It's basically about this drama professor and she's trying to get her students to put on All's Well That Ends Well by Shakespeare, but they actually would prefer to put on Macbeth. She has chronic back pain, but she keeps going to the doctor. They're like, there's nothing wrong with you, you're making it up basically. Okay, so I have no idea what I was just saying. I think that I was talking about All's Well. My camera overheated as per usual. Anyway, yeah, so it's about this college professor. She's trying to make her students put on All's Well, end up actually wanting to do Macbeth, but she doesn't want them to do that. She has a lot of chronic pain. I think this is where I was at. She has chronic back pain, just as like a lot of people know a woman's experience trying to get medical help. A lot of times like a woman won't be believed. So she goes through like loads and loads of different like doctors, but nothing's helping. And then one day she wakes up and all of her pain is completely gone. A lot of weird stuff starts to happen, and it's kind of like, I don't know if it's like magical realism or what, but a lot of weird kind of surreal stuff starts happening. But it is really good and I think it's worth reading. It's just like a really good book. It is dark at times just because of the weird stuff that happens. It still is like fast paced and you just kind of want to keep reading and know what happens. Another book that I read recently, this was also another physical book that I read recently, I just don't have it with me, is Wild Tales from Early Medieval Britain by Amy Jeffs. I actually went to the book launch at a little independent bookstore in Bristol. Amy Jeffs was there just discussing the book. I did do some units in my English lit degree on like medieval English. I didn't actually like it. It was like one of my least favourite things. It's a few different short stories that are divided into different sections, like different types of nature. I gave it 3 stars. Like, I think it was okay. I would have much preferred that it wasn't fictional. I would have preferred to just have a book about her talking about like the factual information. A lot of it is related to literature at the time, so literature and nature in medieval England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland. It is good, like I'm glad I read it. I did enjoy it, but it was like okay, I gave it 3 stars. The last book that I'm going to talk about, I did read more, but I just think that this is probably going on a bit too long. Another book that I read recently was Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was one I listened to on audiobook. I thought this was okay. I definitely don't understand the hype. I really did enjoy Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That's the only other Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've read, I think. It wasn't like bad, but it wasn't, in my opinion, particularly good either. I don't think the characters were very well developed. I think the romance was bland. I think the relationship between Carrie Soto and her father, that was like the best part of the book, and I know that's what a lot of the book is about, but I just think as well there was just something missing. I wasn't really interested in the plot. That's just like how I feel about it. I know a lot of people love it and it just wasn't for me personally. 3 stars. I thought it was like fine. I actually will talk about one more book because then this is like kind of the most recent ones completely talked about, and this is another one I listened to on audiobook, and that is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I really enjoyed this. It is really good. I gave it 4 stars. I just really enjoyed it. It was a nice time reading it. Elizabeth Acevedo, she narrates the audiobook herself. I always love whenever that happens. About this young girl, she's a high school senior called Emoni. She fell pregnant whenever she was 15, I think, and she is having to be in high school full time, and as well outside of that she works in a burger place just so that she can have enough money to bring the baby up. But she loves to cook and she wishes that she was a chef, and that's her dream, and she always cooks for her grandmother, and her food is meant to be like when you taste it you can feel the love that it was made with. I actually really loved that element in the book. I loved that she had this like dream that she wanted to achieve, and she felt like, you know, was putting all of her responsibilities first. There's also this narrative about how if you have a child young that you wouldn't be a good mother, which this book I feel like really fights against. So that was really good, and all of the relationship dynamics were really well developed. The characters were really well developed, and I loved her relationship between Emoni and her grandmother. That was really interesting because her grandmother lives with her, helps her out with the baby. There is a romantic relationship that comes about. It's not insta love, it's definitely well developed and explores a lot of her fears on having like a relationship like that again, and having this fear that somebody's going to hurt her. That was really interesting too. I thought it was just really well done. It was really well written, and it was definitely really worth reading. Years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, just whenever Poet X was coming out, I got a NetGalley ebook of Poet X, and I really did not enjoy that like one bit. I think I rated it quite lowly just because maybe it was just like me. I don't know if I like the whole like poetry format, like a novel told through poetry. I just don't know if that's for me. I really didn't enjoy it. I also think it was probably one of the worst books to read on as a Kindle NetGalley edition because it was like an arc. The formatting wasn't very good, and as well it was also on Kindle, so the formatting was really messed up, so that kind of also really wasn't a good way to read it. So I just thought, well, I'll give her another go because this was an actual novel that wasn't told in poetry form, and I loved it. So yeah, that's all of the books that I read recently. I am reading The Secret History and Song of Achilles at the minute, so I'm going to be talking about those soon. Those are my current reads. Please tell me in the comments what book that you have read recently. It would be really nice to have a little discussion to see if I've read any of them and just to see what you're all reading at the minute. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please like this video. I will see you in the next one.